Hi, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here for the first time, my name's Rowan. Welcome. I live in my van with my dog Ruby. So in this video I'm going to go over kind of how and why I chose this type of vehicle, and then how I designed the build. Somebody asked me a while back for like if I had any designs on Alive, and I found them, so that inspired this video. Thank you for the inspiration. And I'll show those plans, the designs, and kind of how I did them for this build. And then I'll go into kind of how I did the build, a little bit into that. And then I'll give you a full tour of this van, just because it's been a while, and for the new people in the channel. But first, coffee. All right, that's good. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I didn't start off with this vehicle. Although I did start off with a cargo van build, and I had done a lot of looking up at YouTube actually and checking out different vehicles, and I decided a cargo van was what I wanted to live in, because not only are they relatively inexpensive to buy, I got my first one in 2020, so they have gone up a little bit, but they're still, and I'll get into that with this van in just a few minutes. So that was kind of my dream, was a cargo van. So I did start off with that one. I'll put some pictures in here. I do have videos about the build and installing different things. That was when I was first getting my channel going. I did end up quitting my job, and I sold the van just to help make ends meet, and ended up getting a Toyota Corolla. I was excited about the Toyota Corolla because I started doing DoorDash full-time. So I did a conversion in the Toyota Corolla, but the engine blew. And so I ended up getting a Honda Pilot because it felt like a happy medium where I could DoorDash, but there was a little more room. I could, have a bit more of a kitchen, and I was pretty happy with the Honda Pilot. I was pretty comfortable in that. I'll link all these kind of tour videos of the different vehicles in the description of this video. A few things happened about a year ago. One is I got Ruby, among some other transitions that were taking place, and it was time to get a van. So I sold the Honda, and I got this van that I'm in now. That brings us up to this build and explains a little bit of kind of my process of vehicles. And why I like cargo vans is because they're stealthy. These cargo work vans are like tanks. The one that I had, the first one, I got it up over 200,000, and it was still running very strong. This one I got at, I think, 185, and it's at almost at 215,000. So that's 30,000 miles I've put on it since mid-March of last year. And oh, Ruby thinks somebody's at the door. It's okay, Rubes. That was me knocking on wood. So that's kind of the process of my vehicles. I went back to a cargo van because I think for me, with a dog especially, a cargo van is the perfect footprint. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think it would be great to stand up, and maybe at some point, maybe not in the too distant future, I'll be looking to get a van I can stand up in. But that is probably the only thing I would change about this van. I've been looking around, and one benefit of this van is that it looks just like a work van. So for kind of stealth street parking or just traveling and being on the go, it's pretty low profile. There's a lot of vans that look like this, and it kind of blends in. That's one benefit that I like about my van. I'm not looking to stand out while I travel. That's not, in fact, the opposite. I want to be able to blend in. So a cargo van provides that. I get the question a lot of times, like, where did you find your van? So this van came from a school district, and I think when I found it, I just Googled used vans for sale near me. And you can extend the radius in your search as much or as little as you want. I like to do a really wide radius, start with local and then open it up, because I am willing to travel to get a good vehicle. And, put in your price range. I think I had it said used vans under $5,000 near me. And sometimes play with the numbers a little bit, because maybe, if you go up to 10,000, there's one that's 5,500 that wouldn't have been listed on there. And you can talk them down a little bit. So play around with the search, have fun looking. That is a very fun stage. And look at them, check out the photos. I have had pretty good luck with my vans, both of them. The first one was through Craigslist, and it was a carpenter. And I went and looked at it. He seemed very open, very comfortable. I test drove it, and it just seemed like he wasn't hiding anything, and that he was being very honest about the state of the vehicle and everything. That vehicle was $2,800. Like I said, it had 173,000 miles on it. And I did need to do a water pump, I think, but other than that, it wasn't anything too major. This one I looked up, and I found it. It wasn't through Craigslist. I think it was like Auto Trader or something like that. And this van was sold through a school. I looked up the school. The school was legit. I knew that this van would probably have been well maintained because of the liability issue of driving around kids. So I didn't go get either van inspected. In fact, this one, I don't think I even opened up the hood, honestly. I did test drive it, but I don't think I even opened up the hood. I would not recommend that. But I lucked out with this van too. A lot of places now know that there's a high interest in vans and van kind of shells. And so there's a big markup because, well, there's a high demand. But I found that the carpenter, he just was looking for the blue book value. He just wanted to sell the old van, and he had upgraded. And same with the school. They upgraded their fleet of, I think, 15 vans every now and then, and whichever one was the oldest at the time, they would sell. And they would sell. This actually was below the blue book value. So this van was $3,500, and it's a 2010 Ford Econoline. So that's a little bit of information if you're looking to purchase a van. I think other things to think about if you're able to kind of pick out a vehicle that you want are what kind of areas you want to be in, what kind of climate, what are the roads like? Do you want four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? Are you going to be doing more city driving? I think that an SUV or a minivan are a great kind of medium ground too, that have a lot of options, but are still relatively small. And so that's kind of some things to consider when looking to a vehicle. Or, you can make it work with what you have for a while and save towards something. Both the van builds that I've done have been around $5,000 or $6,000 total. And so I have learned that this style build that I do, which is pretty basic, it's kind of like a no build, and it's pretty simple. The build part of it, the purchase of the materials, have been roughly $2,000 to $3,000. So the van has been around $3,000, and then $2,000 to $3,000 for the build part. So when thinking about budgeting, it's kind of that's kind of the breakdown. Certainly you can do it for less. Certainly, I mean, when I first took my Toyota Corolla out for a 6-week road trip, and I DoorDashed around just to see if I could do that. And see if I could, not only could I DoorDash around, but could I live in it? And at that point, I hadn't taken the seats out, and I hadn't tinted the windows, and I didn't have window covers. I just slept in my back seat of my car, and I stayed at hotel parking lots. I stealth parked on the streets, although I got a gray blanket and I went under the gray blanket. But you could look in. I just would go to sleep after dark and I would get up before it got light out. So certainly you can make it work. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been able to get a larger van. I'm grateful for Ruby joining me on my journey. And, but certainly it's quite possible in any vehicle. And I'm grateful that I even have vehicles. There's a lot of people that don't have vehicles. So, yeah. But there are also a lot of vans out there that are like over $100,000. And I mean, I think if you're dedicated to the lifestyle and it's, a dream of yours to have a fancy van like that, then absolutely. But I just hope people know that van life is accessible for around $5,000 to $6,000 or even less. But just for me and people watching my channel and looking at my build, that's kind of the price range that I'm in. When thinking about your design for your build, I think it's important to consider what you want to have in the van. What things are important to you? You guys know, if you're following the channel, is cooking. Cooking is very important to me. So I wanted to have a place to store my spices, some basic food supplies, as well as having a place for food when I went to the grocery store, and had fresh produce, things like that. Figure out those things that are important to you, because that should be a priority when you're designing your build. Maybe you're not somebody that cooks and you eat out a lot. You probably don't need a big old kitchen. I love doing dishes. I like to have hot, soapy water. So for me, the sink is a huge luxury in my van. But think about what's important to you. Maybe, I know for some people gaming is a big thing, so maybe it's, you want to have a TV or a game system. Maybe that's something that's really important to you. So once I decided on a vehicle and I kind of picked this one out and started corresponding with them about going to see it and everything, and knew that this was, oh my gosh, Rubes, really? It's just so dramatic. Once I figured, she wants to come say hi. Of course I had to make room for Ruby. Okay, once I picked out this vehicle and started corresponding with them, and knew that this was kind of the vehicle, I looked up dimensions. Oh, and I did a little pre-research too when I was checking out different vans. I wanted one that I knew I liked having my bed wall to wall. Not everybody wants that, but that's what I wanted. So I was looking for a van that had the widest width. So you can Google interior dimensions of whatever vehicle you're looking at. Once I Googled the dimensions and had those figured out, I could really start playing with the footprint, and I knew what the space was that I had to work with. I knew the ceiling to floor, floor to ceiling height. I knew wall to wall, and then I knew length behind the seats that I had to work with. And I'll show my plans. Somebody asked for these on the live. I know I said that already, but I'm excited because I found them. So I'll share those here. So this is what I used to design this van. It's just kind of old school. Here's something laying around. And here are my original van designs. So this is kind of the first design that I did, this preliminary design. And I was just having fun thinking about kind of the van and the space that I had to work with. The bed, a desk area. This is the sink because I knew I wanted a sink. And stove. This is the water cooler. This is a dog crate, which I wanted Ruby to have a safe space within the van that was kind of her own. That has ended up to be the passenger seat. I've made it work so the passenger seat is kind of her zone. But I did want shelves, books, food, storage. So this was just kind of me having fun and approximating you know, how big everything would be, and designing. And then here was another one. Once I got more specific numbers, and I got a little more specific, and this isn't exactly to scale. I know some people like to use like the grid paper. I just wrote these down for my own record. You know, this stuff changed. Like, this is tiny, 14 inches for a desk. It's a lot larger. It ended up being, I want to say it's 24 inches, the board. And then the dog crate I don't even have, and I do have a small dresser here. This one is more like my actual van build. So this is the kitchen over here. The crate underneath, which I took out. I think I was gonna do like I think I considered having the dog crate under going this way. That's what this is. But then I realized I could fit the dog crate under here and then put a dresser over here. And I tried to do this one a little bit more to scale. And then I was measuring the height. So when doing the bed, I actually sat and measured myself. I sat on the floor and measured myself to figure out how much height I needed. So I measured from sitting position from the floor up to the top of my head, and knew that I wanted that plus probably at least like 4 inches. So that was what I needed for space wise. And the total height from ceiling to floor was 54 inches, but then I subtracted the thickness of the mattress, the board, and then the bed frame from that to make sure that I still had enough room to sit up in bed and have enough headroom. Yeah, this just kind of gives some structure to the design. So once you have your design, the kind of rough draft and idea of the big pieces of furniture, and you've measured and figured out where they fit, it's time to start building. The first van I had was a carpenter van, and so there were some shelves. They were pretty easy to take out, and other than that, it was just empty. But this van was a passenger van, so it was full of seats. So I figured out how to kind of undo the seats, but they were really heavy, and I couldn't figure out how I was going to get them out of the van, like physically lift them, and then I didn't know what to do with them after. And it occurred to me to call a junkyard and see if they would be interested in having them. And then while I was on the phone with them and they said they were interested, I also asked if they could help me remove them. If I unhooked them and did all that part, and if they could just like help me physically get them out of the van. And they said absolutely. So I unhooked them all. They just lifted them out and took them away. So that was really helpful, and it was free, and you know, it was like a win-win. They got the seats. I'm sure they can resell them, or they said that actually I think they're going to use the metal. And I had the seats removed. So that was the first big step. There were a few key pieces that I got, like the mattress. I knew the rough dimensions, so that was something I had ordered. I also knew that I wanted to upgrade my power station, so that was another thing. It happened to go on sale. It was like 40% off. And so I do have an EcoFlow Delta 2 that I love. And so I ordered that. That was a big purchase. I believe I spent $600 on that. So that was a big thing. And the mattress came to close to $200. So that's like $800 in purchases. And then the other big thing was I got a Yeti cooler. And I like the Yeti cooler because cooking is important to me. So I like to have the option of keeping foods cool if need be. So those were kind of the big purchases that I got for the build. And then the big kind of areas were the bed, the kitchen area, and that's kind of it. So the bed, I knew, because I did all those measurements, I knew the height of the bin. So I went to Home Depot, got the piece of plywood. They do free cuts. If you know the measurements and you can bring the piece of plywood up, they'll cut it. I think it's up to like 3 or 4 cuts for free, and then it's 50 cents after that. So if you know the dimensions that you're wanting, it's a good way to get things cut without actually needing to have the tools. And then I got the bins. They're the heavy duty Tupperware bins. I knew that they would, you know, be flush to the wheel well. I measured the height of the wheel well, and then I put the piece of plywood on top of it. So the bins provided storage, but also kind of the platform. So there's a little storage under the bed and then storage in those bins. I think there's like extra food. One has crafts, one has tools. And honestly, I don't remember what the other one has. In terms of the kitchen, I also went and got plywood. I knew that I liked having my water cooler. Like when I had the Honda build, I used a water cooler. It worked really well. It's $14 from Walmart, and it's just a big glass water cooler, and it's over the sink. The sink was so fun. I ordered that off Amazon. I think it was about $49, and it just came without the hole, but I got the hardware to put in it. And here are a couple pictures of me installing the sink, and then also enjoying the hot water. It's just such a treat. I could put boiling hot water in there and wash my face. So I do use a Eureka stove. I got it at REI. They're hard to find. I love the stove, but I was looking actually for another one online, and it seems like they're discontinuing it, and there's like a similar product. But I know Coleman has them as well. So I use a 1-burner butane stove, and I love it. That's all I've used. I do all my cooking on the 1-burner. If I need to cook like rice and stir fry, I'll just cook the rice, then stir fry or whatever. I just make it work. The other important thing that I got started on right away were the window covers. And I have a few pictures here. I use Reflectix. I kind of push them in the window to kind of create the outline. And then I got black fleece, I want to say at Joann's, and that and I just glued that on the other side. So that was the side that went out towards the windows, and the Reflectix was on the inside. And then I later covered it with fabric, but just to get it going. And there's a couple pictures I took here of that process. Also showing what the van looked like once the window covers were in. It just looked like a darkly tinted window. So that was an important thing. Then the other thing that was important, before I got the power station or anything like that, I just wanted to get some lights up. And so I used these lights up here. I ordered them. They're copper wire lights. They're off of Amazon. And I also ordered these light bulb shaped clothespins, I believe they're called. And so I open them up and just stick them in the ceiling. That's how I attach the lights. So I just, you know, open it up and stuck the pin side in there, and then just thread these battery powered lights around. So that was a way to get some light. So I had light, I had a bed, and I had some privacy, and I got started on my kitchen pretty quickly. The other things I did were just kind of measurements. The kitchen was really fun because I knew I wanted spices. I knew I wanted, you know, jars of things, as just aesthetically, and it's kind of evolved as time has gone on. All right, now we'll get into the tour. All right, here we go. Got the inspector up there in the front seat, making sure I'm accurate about all my information. Here's a good look at the van. A closer look at the kitchen area. And here's the sink with the water cooler I was talking about earlier. There's a paper towel roll that's just kind of wedged in there, and the sink. Here's the other part of the kitchen. For privacy in between the driver and passenger seat, I use this fleece with Velcro, and it just sticks to the ceiling. I also wedged this basket recently. It's not held in, it's just wedged, and it holds some produce. Here's a rotating lamp I got. It provides good light. And here's how my stove, I just keep it under the counter unless I'm using it. And when I'm driving, I put my tea kettle up here on this hook, and that prevents it from flying off the countertop, which it did for a long time, but now it stays. Under here, I did have the dog crate, but I replaced it with these 3 drawers because I needed room for my spices, which I keep in the top drawer. They're all in there. I need to label the tops, but that's my spice drawer, and then I have other things in the other 2. And underneath here is where I keep my power station. And I also have on the side a extension cord that's easily accessible. I just keep it kind of wrapped up. And so if I'm at a campground that has electric or in an area where I can just plug it in, that's really convenient. This stores food, as does the other one. These used to fly open. They are magnetic, but they flew open until I realized I could just tie a hair tie around. They're from the dollar store. Up here are my jars. They hold things like noodles, coffee, lentils. There are 2 rows of jars, so I think there's 10 jars total. And then I have this tin that keeps my silverware, and I have this special teaspoon. It's got its own little spot. And then this is where I keep my kind of toiletries, and you can see I've used the same hair tie technique to tie that shut. That's something I made in 7th grade wood shop. It's kind of cool. I still have it. I use all these areas to just tuck books. If there's a space, I just tuck books in there because I love books. And also up here, those I use double-sided sticky tape to stick together, or like some sort of like reusable thing. Also, I've put my lights up there. I just find any useful area to just tuck things. Here's another look at the sink, and there's this pipe I got at Home Depot, and it drains into a 7-gallon bucket from Walmart. Here's another look from this side at the kitchen area. So this van had a this pole because it was a passenger van, and so I've used it to hang coats and things like that. Here's a tin where I keep dog food, and you can also see the Yeti cooler kind of tucked between the seats there. There are only a few areas where I attached things with a screwdriver, and you can see there's, a few spots. I used L brackets to secure things, but really overall, that was about it. And then I got all the cuts done at Home Depot. Up here I have a little writing center with pens, papers, stamps, things like that. All right, let's look at the bed area. This is it. So I showed the window covers, but I didn't show them. This is them with things on them. Some have fabric and Amazon decals on the others. Also, I like to get pillows that zipper because they can be used for storage. That one just has a pillow in it, but this is a body pillow cover, and it has clothes I'm not using, seasonal stuff, and then my duvet behind there that I pull out. It's a blanket. Here's some curtains I made, which now that I have the window covers on all windows, I don't really use those. Here's some fans. These are great. They just clip on, and they are rechargeable USB fans that are really handy in the summer just to cool things down. Again, I'm kind of using the random spots. Like here, I just use what's in the van as function. I have a basket for dog treats and toys and stuff there. Here's a little shelf I have that has my clothes in it. And it's also where I think I might put a wood stove if I do that in this van. Here's my refrigerator freezer. So the Yeti is not electric, it's just a cooler, but this one does have the ability to plug in and can get down pretty cold. So if I ever want to get ice cream or something like that and keep it, it can stay in there. On this side, I have pots and pans. And this is also where I keep my extra butane canisters. I don't recommend that. It's probably not very safe, but so far, so good. And there's the bed again. Now this is where I keep my toilet bucket, we'll just say. The lid lifts off. And here's where I hang my laundry, which is currently in the front seat. I hope you enjoyed this van tour and also video describing kind of the process of building the build and kind of like why I got what I got and did what I did and all that within the budget that I had. Yeah, I hope I've been helpful. I hope something in here has been helpful to somebody out there, or maybe you just enjoyed it or found it entertaining. But I'm hoping I can kind of help people out by sharing my process of what I did. If you did, I'm like feeding Ruby's like ready for something different, so I'm like hand feeding her dog food over here to keep her calm. But if you enjoyed the video, could you hit the thumbs up button please and give it a like? And also, if you are here for the first time and you enjoyed watching this, I invite you to subscribe. This is an amazing community. I will keep saying that. I feel so blessed with the community here. And I do go live pretty frequently, either, you know, every Sunday or every other Sunday. And that's also a great time to answer van life questions if you have them, or just come hang out and be part of the, you know, the community, the Sunday lives. So thank you so much. I appreciate you guys a lot, and I hope you enjoyed the tour, and I will see you soon. All right. Bye.